Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with your host, Bill Stierle. And today we're going to have a little discussion about the motives behind the Buffalo mass shooting. I guess we have to call him suspect at this point. I guess he's been arrested. He's in custody. And, you know, he was live streaming this whole thing on social media. I understand on Twitch, which is a gaming social media platform. Was taken down, obviously, but not before he live streamed it, which is pretty horrific in itself. But he published a manifesto, something like 190 pages, something like that. Yeah. So it's not that hard to see into his motivations, and one of the big ones is this the idea of, and I guess I don't know what else to call it, but the idea of, or it's sort of a conspiracy theory of sorts of the great white replacement.
Right. Yes. And
there's a lot of really scary amplification happening of that. What I think is the whole concept is a fear. It's fear-based, isn't it, Bill?
Well, the fear's the emotion. There's what need of ours is causing the fear. Whenever we talk about motive, Tom, I mean, we kind of talk about this on our show, is that every behavior, every human action can be summarized into one sentence. Nobody says or does anything unless a need of theirs is being met. So they're pursuing a need. So the shooter is pursuing the need for identity. With that, the presumed need for getting respect. With that, the presumed need for being heard. That's why the manifesto comes out the way it does. That's why, because I need to be heard about how much pain I'm in, and I'm writing about it. Then I'm going to take an action about it. And then after I do that, I'm going to get recognition and respect, because talking about what's painful to me, and then I'm taking an action towards others to let them carry the amount of pain. I'm in fear, you're going to be in fear too. And it's really hard to hold on to that truth, because our brain wants to click to a very, very simple thought. They're crazy. We want to label and diagnose them, but we can't do that. As soon as you label and diagnose them, you now are off the hook, but you haven't done anything about the problem. It's because as soon as you call them a psychopath, you're off the hook, but you haven't done anything about the problem. How are human beings getting hooked or baited to take a violent action to get respect, recognition, and acknowledgement? How are they doing that? And so we've got to be careful not to let psychological labels fall into this. Don't let our rational mind take over to try to justify, explain, or you try to understand it. I don't understand anything. I mean, it's a weird thing to say, but it's not. Understanding is overrated here. I want to do something about the motive, which is, how do we as a nation get the need for respect met in different ways other than killing other people?
Okay, well, that's a really good point, Bill. It's interesting. It's a little different from where I thought you were going with that, but getting their need for respect met, though, that need exists as a result of some message that they've heard that they've started to form a belief around, right? Which in this case we're saying is the Great Replacement, which just in a not to do it complete justice, unfortunately, but for the sake of time, is this concept that the Jewish community is somehow going to replace us,
and minorities and
replace
people that are not like me.
Right, that are going to replace the majority with, and in this case, the majority being viewed by this guy. And I think we have to admit, in reality, is white men in this country, with and there's a lot of different things that they fear being replaced by, but one of them is third party or third world voters rather, coming in and replacing them. It's like, does the Jewish community have that much power? I mean, if you think about it rationally, I'm not really so sure that that's something they're doing, or that they even could do it if they wanted to do it.
Oh my gosh. You're so, this is really this is a funny discussion, because you actually just did what I just said that people do, which is, I'm trying to understand this. It doesn't make any sense to me. And you're exactly right. And our brain walks us down the path, Tom. So thank you very much for doing that. Our brain walks us down the path going like, this doesn't make any sense. Why would a woman vote for somebody that doesn't respect women? And it's because it meets the need for validation or familiarity or even identity of authoritarian men get to tell women what to do. There are women that have the belief that men get to tell women what to do because it's in scripture, in multiple scriptures, not just Christian, but it's also in Islam, and Judaism has its own set of man authority kind of energy in it. So we've got to pay attention to what is that thing? Why do people pursue these things? Because I don't want to change the way I'm thinking. I don't want to adjust my beliefs. I don't want to lose the stability and the certainty that I had growing up, or my religion gives me. I don't want to lose that. So people cling to things that are older and doesn't really fit our ethical, legal, or even moral ethics. It really doesn't. To take somebody else's choice away doesn't really stand for the thing that we are saying that we stand for.
Well, it's interesting that I sort of went down the same path what you're talking about in my own mind. I wasn't trying to sort of explain it to myself or justify it in my mind. I was trying to get to really what is the root cause of this great replacement that's being, this I guess concept of the great replacement. Where is that? Because it's being amplified and people are believing it. And I was sort of, maybe sort of, I guess, shocked that people are believing it, although I shouldn't be, because it's a message that's getting amplified. I mean, on daily on American television, even by Tucker Carlson.
That's correct. That's the way to think about it, Tom. I appreciate you circling back to that, because it really allows us to kind of like soberly stare at what Tucker Carlson is doing with his TV show, getting eyeballs and getting ratings and getting those kinds of people with those kinds of advertisers on there and selling, because, that's the way that system is built, is you're not on the air if you don't have good ratings, and you better say things that are get you good ratings, because that's the kind of show that you have in order to get good ratings.
He's amplifying a conspiracy theory that is whipping up people to fear that result that conspiracy theory, will, speaks toward, and then getting them to take action to solve a problem or meet their needs, I guess, as you were saying.
That's it.
But to meet their needs, to solve a problem that doesn't exist. I mean, it's mind-boggling.
It is. And what it does is it engages a person's belief structure. It validates for them where they are. This is my identity. I'm losing my identity, and therefore I'm losing my country. And Trump easily stepped into that. You better fight like hell or you're going to lose your country. And the thing that they were fighting for was the idea that they're going to be replaced and this is our house and we get to walk through it because we want everybody to know that white people are still in charge. And it's a little unsettling when I say it so like flat like that, because I'm not really honoring, it's kind of a weird way to say honoring how important our needs are as human beings, that my need for respect, your need for respect, and somebody that was in the insurrection's need for respect is the same respect. We just have different strategies to get them met. You know, one person might try to do it through money. One person might try to do it through service. One person might do it through marching through the Capitol building to try to stop a belief they think that is wrong. And that's still an okay motive. It's not legal. It's not truthful, but it's a motive. and I'm not giving anybody permission here to do terrible things. I am giving us permission to talk about it openly, so that at least we know what the ghosts we are that we're fighting, because it's like swinging at something you can't see.
That's a very interesting phrase, the ghosts that we are fighting, which implies that it's not truthful, which you just said a moment ago. So why is it more people don't have a need to seek the truth, to verify that what is getting them so upset is rooted in fact, rather than in, what's the opposite? I mean, rhetoric and
they're gonna believe something that's not there. So the reason why, there's two specific reasons. Number one, validation and certainty. When I can believe something, I don't have to question. I don't have to work. I don't have to think beyond my black and white belief. I'm okay, because this belief has served me. My parents taught me this belief. I'm getting reinforced this belief by Tucker Carlson or Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham. I'm going to be supported by my belief people. And I don't have to think beyond the belief, because truth is too much work. And because truth is too much work, because I mean, it's unsettling, is you have to deal with the gray areas of truth. The gray areas of truth is that as soon as you rob somebody of the need for choice, you're robbing your own need for choice, because you just lost choice as a thing, but you're not. And then you might lose privacy with that because you just lost choice. Then you might lose.
Oh boy, Bill.
Make decisions because you just lost choice. You just lost privacy. Now you just lost your decisions.
Oh my gosh. It almost, if we made that an excerpt of this episode and put it on social media, people might think you're talking about the draft opinion of the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade, because they're equating that decision that at the time of recording this hasn't come down yet, but we've only had the draft opinion, and we're all thinking it's probably going to follow the draft opinion. But they're equating this loss of choice over abortion with lack of privacy on other things, like that decision will be a slippery slope for other decisions that will lose privacy for people in general in our country. And here you were talking about it in this sort of narrower field, narrower topic, but the same thing kind of applies there. And I know we didn't intend to take this episode.
But you asked the perfect question that you asked, Tom, is that, what's the impact of messaging like this? See, the First Amendment, freedom of speech, if you put, the losing the person's choice ahead of speech, what happens is that you wind up losing speech later, because you'll lose speech. I'm not going to be heard. Well, shut up. We know what the rule is. We get to execute you because the rule is like this. You're taking the Constitution, and when you reorder it, it doesn't work as well, because freedom of speech is, we've got to be able to talk about things that are gray in the gray areas, where one person believes this thing and another person believes these things. Because if you're not allowed to talk about the gray areas, you get, here it comes, drum roll, authoritarian, rule of law, heavy police states, heavy, communists. It's because where the authoritarian moves to the front of the list, goes, I can kill and shoot or lock up anybody I want to, becomes the way the country works, rather than people get to stay what they want. We get to talk through the gray areas of being an adult, not allow the government to be our parent and enforce rules and give us a 20-year timeout in jail.
Wow. So is the whole reason that these needs exist, these feelings exist, that rise out of the concept of the Great Replacement, which, when you really think about it, fits right into the whole Make America Great Again narrative.
Yes. Right.
Of just people wanting to stay where they're comfortable. I want to stay in a belief structure that I have lived by, validated, I think is moral, and because I have a few set of beliefs that are easy for me to follow, and because it gives me a sense of identity and autonomy in my own small world. I don't have to think about the impact of my vote on somebody in a city, in a major city, because my small town is the way I would like to see the world. Therefore, my values need to be over there in that city. They don't. You live there. You live where you live. And we want you to live where you live because that allows you to live where you live, but you can't influence the life in another part of the United States, which we can start dropping the United now. We call us the States of America. We're just the states. We're not the United States. We're the States of America. Do you see how dangerous that is? It's very dangerous. And it seems to me this is really that right now what's happening with this, what clearly is a great divide in this country that's getting worse, is, the majority of Americans are not pursuing a more perfect union, really.
Right.
They're each, pursuing, you've got this struggle between those that want to leave things the way they are. And I suppose in general, if you're somebody that's experiencing, the privilege of being white or being in the majority, you're wanting to leave it the way it is because, hey, you're pretty happy. That's good. And if you're, among all the people that are not benefiting from that, anything like that, you want to enact change. So this is really a big struggle between keeping things the way they are, or even turning the clock back and making them more the way they were, and making change and progress to make things more equitable, it seems.
Yeah, the equitability is really tough. It's weird how this this is mirroring the 1920s. This is like so weird that this is mirroring this. It's our version of the upset, but it's still it's just like it's like 100 years later we're doing the same things that we kind of fought through in the 1920s. It's really kind of a little weird, you know.
And it took us as a country until pretty much the late 1940s to come out of it after a World War and all this conflict, right?
Right. And we kind of sat on the sidelines. It's really weird. Watch. I mean, think about it. It's like World War I was us sitting on the sidelines. The US sat on the sidelines for most of World War I, just like we're sitting on the sidelines with Ukraine. We're kind of doing it in that way. And then it was over sanctions of Germany that caused World War II.
And believe me, we're doing the same thing to Russia now. And
right. You're drawing the line. You're drawing the lines the way I'm drawing it. It's a very, it's a wider view. Now there are plenty of people that historically will say, well, this is not the same. This is not the same. They are getting trapped in what we're saying is they're trying to figure it out, understanding and look to try to make things match. But the bigger issue is, how do we get respect and how do we get an identity? That's Putin is trying, how to get an identity. The Republicans are trying to get an identity. The Democrats are fighting to try to hold on to a certain identity of America. And the challenge is that we've got to remember that human beings are simple. We pursue needs, and there are people that are pursuing needs at the expense of other people. That's common. People do that. But if we don't talk about which need they're trying to get met, we will not be able to dismantle it. We will not be able to reduce the tension. We just can't, because we're not able to see past right, wrong, good, bad thinking, because that's the way adolescents think. Right, wrong, good, bad. It's not fair unless I take all the marbles. Huh? You're going to get people to not want to play the game. Now, that's really important. You get people not wanting to play the game. It's called a flat middle class. They don't want to play the game anymore. It's like, what's the use? Well, I'll just punch the clock and I'll just live in this small place. I'm not going to play the game until now all of a sudden I'm really, really losing things. And now I'm pissed and I'm ready to revolt and get angry and all that other kind of stuff, because you're taking all the marbles and you're bullying people while you're doing it. And you're not figuring out a way to create a middle class equity that can really actually cause a pretty strong, 100 years of mostly stability.
Yeah, it seems all, Trump, for instance, and Tucker Carlson, who are really on the same team, are doing is trying to let everybody know who's to blame for how they are feeling, and to just get them to be more on their team.
Right. Their identity. Yes.
Yeah.
I get to identity. Where we can stick the landing here, Tom, because it's really important to keep these things in nice listenable packets, is that courage. We need courage to speak up, but also courage to take the heat. Liz Cheney did that. She tweeted out the quote that you mentioned, that the Republicans need to speak out against white supremacy.
Right. Yeah, because that's what she said exactly. That, and actually even more than that the House GOP leadership has enabled white nationalism and white supremacy and anti-Semitism. Right. And she's really calling them out. She's trying to have them look at history. And basically, she says history has taught us that what begins with words ends in far worse. And Republican leaders in particular, she's saying, must renounce and reject these views and those who hold them. And she's talking about, the Tucker Carlson's and the Donald Trumps of the world and all the people following him who are spewing this stuff.
And they don't have the courage. They don't have the courage to stare the person in the face and listen. America doesn't stand for that. America allows you to speak your opinion, but it doesn't stand for that. Your opinion doesn't get to move to the front of the list because that's not what we stand for. You can fight for that cause. You can meet because you believe that cause, but we sort of got to watch it because that's not what America really stands for. And we need to really have courage to do that and say, listen, I can hear your belief that you have a belief that a white person has more rights than other Americans do, but it's than a minority does, or a person of color does, but that's not what we're standing for here. That's not what the United States stands for, and that kind of level of courage is tough, because if I'm saying this same rhetoric that I just said in many, many other countries, I'd be in jail. I couldn't say this. And, I couldn't say that I couldn't talk against the state. And people really don't quite get that is, that we have a better line than most other nations do. Our line is I could talk, but I can't act violently against others because there's laws for that.
Wow.
That's the line. So
okay, Bill. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for sort of putting a bow on that one and wrapping it up. That's very helpful.
Thanks a lot, Tom. It's great doing this. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.